Please join me in welcoming our television and webcast viewers. My name is Jillian Riley, President-elect of the Canadian Club of Toronto. Viewers, we are very pleased that you are participating with us today. For 120 seasons, the Canadian Club has been proud to provide a forum for leaders and visionaries in every aspect of society to share their ideas with us. We are committed to providing a welcoming venue for discussion and debate on issues that impact our lives. Through our program and activities, we offer access to dynamic political, business, and public figures from around the world. Today's panelists are a very fine example. Before I formally introduce them, here is a preview of some of our upcoming events. Tomorrow, November 8th, Ontario's Finance Minister, the Honourable Charles Sousa, will be at our podium to discuss implementing the province's economic plan. On Thursday, November 10th, the president of Maple League of Universities, not Maple Leaf, Maple League, Acadia, Bishops, Mount Allison, and St. Francis Xavier University will discuss their innovative partnership. To order your tickets or to learn more about the club, please visit our website at canadianclub.org. You can also join the conversation via Twitter and Instagram by following us at CDNCLUBTO or by using that hashtag. I want to express our thanks to today's event sponsors. Borden Ladner Gervais, represented by Leila Moshiri, National Director Diversity and Inclusion, and Scotiabank. Thank you for your support. I would also like to recognize the youth and young leaders who are with us today. A group of young leaders, Jarvis Collegiate Institute in Toronto, and a table of students from Waterloo University, supported by the Cortel Group. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Maybe you could just stand up. Thank you. And now our panelists. Female entrepreneurs are visionary and unstoppable. If you've had a chance to watch the inspiring documentary, Dream Girl, it reinforces the fact that women are strong, valuable contributors to economic growth and development in communities right here at home and around the world. According to the film, we create 1,200 businesses a day. That's an incredible number. It demonstrates the ingenuity of businesswomen who are fearlessly bringing their ideas to life, always leading with passion and purpose, despite the odds. We're very fortunate to have a few of them with us today. Megan Grove is Vice President of the Southern Ontario-based waste management company, Future Waste Recycling Facilities, Inc. She's featured in the 2016 version of ProfitGuide.com, Chatelain's 100 list of top female entrepreneurs. Susan McArthur is Managing Partner of Green Soil Investments. Green Soil's portfolio includes companies whose technologies support the smart and efficient use of energy, water, and land in the agricultural, food, and real estate industries. Leslie Wu is Metrolink's Chief Planning Officer, Planning and Policy. A member of the senior management team, she is instrumental in addressing complex urban development issues. Named an outstanding leader, and I have lost my last page here. Named outstanding leader by Canada's
Women's Infrastructure Network.
Canada's Women's Infrastructure Network. Thanks, Fred. In 2015, Ms. Wu has deep experience in the public, private, and not-for-profit sectors. Finally, we are very pleased to have Komal Minhas moderating this discussion today. The documentary film co-producer is breaking down gender stereotypes in a uniquely creative way. Huffington Post called Dream Girl the #1 feminist film to watch. We also want to invite you to join the discussion by filling out the Q&A cards. They're on your table, and our volunteers and staff will come around to collect them during the program. Ladies, the Canadian Club of Toronto podium is yours.
Hey.
thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm so used to a handheld mic, so I'm going to become a hand talker on stage here right now. But it's such a pleasure to be on stage with these powerhouse women. And in a space like the Canadian Club, I feel like the youthful energy that we have from the tables at the back of the room, and just the fact that this panel can exist shows so much progress and so much trailblazing that's happened, even since I was an undergraduate in 2007. So I'd love to start today's conversation with some unique points that I discovered about these women in our pre-interviews. So I'm going to kind of go across the stage here and give you guys a chance to elaborate on some of the pieces that our team got. So Megan, we chatted earlier, and your sister Amber's in the room, but you have a very unique co-founder story. Tell us a little bit more about who your co-founders are and how that conspired.
Well, it's me, my sister Amber, and my sister Jamie, and then our dad as well. So he basically started it back in the family business he ran and then incorporated us into it. So there's the four of us technically, and we even have our brother working for us. So
a real family business.
Yes, we are.
I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family as well. My dad owned a lot of businesses. My mom joined him after they immigrated in the 70s. So I feel like a kinship with you. We were chatting upstairs. Both of our fathers do a lot of trucking, and
Yep.
ours is logging, transport for you guys. Something else that's very unique is that when you and your sisters first started your business in 2011, your sister Amber was pregnant within the first year, and you started this next company with Future Waste Recycling in June, and you're also pregnant.
Correct.
So I think we're going to go right into what it means to be a woman and be starting a company while being pregnant, while having a family, and how entrepreneurship allowed you to kind of create your own culture, and how that's allowed your business to flourish.
Well, comes along with the pros and cons of owning your own business. When you're pregnant, there's a lot of doctor's appointments. You have those days where you just can't get going. So you have that ability to, as long as you can accommodate your business operations and stay home, then you have that ability as well. Mm-hmm. That was a huge benefit to us for sure. But you kind of just have to go with it, right? You have to make do. I mean, we still want families, but we still want to thrive in our business as well.
And thriving you guys are. It's so inspirational.
Thank you.
So Susan, I'd love to chat a little bit more. So your journey started partially in New York early in your career. And from what you mentioned to our team, you started as a secretary and made your way onto Wall Street. And there's apparently a great story here about goal setting and going for your dreams. So I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. How many people in the room are in finance? Okay, so pretty
Yes.
good room. So I, many years ago, maybe more years ago than I want to admit, headed off to New York to make my fame and fortune in, of all things, advertising. And I got to New York and realized very quickly that you cannot live in New York on a starting salary in advertising. So lesson number one, if you're going to go out there and work hard, make sure you're going to work hard for a salary that you can support yourself well and you don't have to depend on anyone. So I met, funnily enough, some gentlemen in a bar one night, and they said, you should be an investment banker. And I said, great, that sounds really great. What's an investment banker? So they gave me the whole spiel, and these guys were bankers at Lehman, and they had been, they were analysts. So in the US, they have these program called analyst program where you work for 2 years, and then you go back to business school, and then you come back to investment banking. So I was like, perfect. That sounds good, better salary. Interesting job, I'm going to be an investment banker. So that started my journey. And I basically, in those days, because it was a long time ago, we didn't have internet. You didn't have, basically barely had computers. And so I was reading the Wall Street Journal. And I would read the tombstones in the Wall Street Journal and find out who all the investment banks were. I found out who all the heads of the international departments were. And I sent that good old-fashioned thing, a letter with my resume, and just was so incredibly tenacious. And the funny part of the story is, to pay my rent and to be able to survive, I had to take a temporary job as a temporary secretary at a bank, scheduling the interviews for all the students that wanted the job that I wanted. And I said to these guys, I was like, I want that job. Can I interview? And they were like, no. And this was a commercial bank. And I ended up getting 3 offers from investment banks. So you can imagine how happy I was at the end of the day when I kind of said, sorry, I can't do the interviews anymore because I'm going to work for First Boston.
Yes.
Which in the day was one of the big, very well-known investment banks. So the story here is, set your goals high. You can really achieve pretty much anything you want to when you put your mind to it. And don't give up, because people will tell you day in, you get more no's than yes in life for sure all the time. And just don't take no for an answer.
Absolutely.
So those are my,
I think this is a panel of people who don't take no for an answer, and perhaps a room of that. So I think that'll be kind of a common theme for our conversation. And Leslie, going off of that, we chatted a little bit about your background, and you were born and raised in Trinidad, fifth-generation Chinese in Trinidad, and moved here when you were 18 years old. And when you mentioned how you got into architecture, you said that it wasn't an opportunity that your mother had to go to university in that way abroad, and that she kind of helped push you in that direction. And from the pre-interview, we learned that that's one of your greatest accomplishments that you've said you've achieved is the success of your daughter. So I'm curious to have you tell us a little bit about that.
So
It's a lot. It's a
life
big
span.
timeline.
So my mother and my grandmother, so I come from a very matriarchal family, very resourceful. If any of you grew up in a third world country, you know how to be independent because you got to sew your own dress, electricity goes, figure out how to you become very, very resourceful. And my mother was very much that. So you also become very independent. Despite all of that, she was between two brothers and the third born. And so she never had the opportunity because they ran out of money between her elder brother and her younger brother. They wanted to send the two boys to university. So she wanted to be an interior designer and never got that opportunity. And I think as a result, when I was thinking about, and she pushed me to make sure I went to university, she was living vicariously through me, I'm 1,000% sure. And I ended up, partly because I had an inclination, but a lot because she said architecture is what you should do. And it was the right decision for me, even though I didn't really make that decision. But it was very much shaped. And when my daughter was on her journey to decide what she wanted to do, it was this very interesting dialogue between her, because I had realized part of my success was a little bit of my mother pushing, but also I wanted her to own the decision. And she chose engineering. She's a graduate from Waterloo, class valedictorian. I'm very proud of her. Yes. A chemical engineer. And but what's interesting, the relationship I had with her was not one I had with my mother. I'm a bit of her career coach, and we talk about her, through university, what co-op jobs, where to go, how to, and she has a built-in coach. I didn't have that. I had to find it in other places, but yes, it speaks to almost every young woman, no matter what career you choose, the importance of having a guide and a navigator to help you. And so I have lots of those in my career, but I had to go seek them out.
Yes. So I feel like she's kind of taking this huge leap forward by just having it built into your lives together.
Yes.
So something that I'd like to dive into right away is each of you are in predominantly male-dominated fields, from transit to investment to waste management. So we'll start on this side with Leslie again. So my question for you, Leslie, is as you're looking at the advice that you're giving your daughter, who's in chemical engineering, also a male-dominated field, your experience in transit and architecture, what are the practices that as women in a male-dominated field you encourage, or advice, practices, key tangible examples that you can provide for maintaining who you are and succeeding in such a hard field?
So it's a catch-22. So let me give you an example of how I behave and then what I tell my daughter to do, because they're not necessarily the same. She called me one day. There was something happening at the office that she was very uncomfortable with, and she was a little stressed out about, and she was on the verge of tears. And I said to her, no matter what you do not go out there and cry. Do not show any emotion. You go scream, bawl in the bathroom, but then you go out there and you say your piece, and you say it forcefully, and don't let them show any emotion. So that's the advice I'm giving her as a young person in her early in her career. I give the opposite, not the opposite, but I give different advice to my mentees or women in management to not be afraid to show your authentic emotion when you're in a position of more senior, because until especially in our work, which is primarily an industry that came from military background and it's primarily male and it's engineers, until we recognize that actually emotion is actually something that's an important part of leadership, and that being emotional, I don't know how many of you have been in a meeting where the guy said, oh, she's being emotional, in a negative way, until we figure out that people can accept that emotion is actually a powerful part of leadership, and it's what women bring to the table. So I think there's two ends of the spectrum. Until the change happens, I coach younger women to kind of manage it, and then more senior women to actually figure out how to embrace it.
Absolutely, and I feel like those two, in social innovation, we call those wicked questions. Like those are the two opposing ends of this larger social problem that we have to address. And I think in our company culture, so we have 4 full-time employees, we're all women, and we try and cultivate and create a space of that authentic vulnerability. And I feel like it's so tampered down. And on Friday, we spoke at Waterloo and did a panel discussion at Waterloo after seeing the film. And one of the women in the film raised $300 million for her oil company. And her key takeaway in the film is that vulnerability is not weakness, vulnerability is power. And until we have leaders who understand that and who cultivate that, especially in female employees, but also in young men in the company, so that they don't shut down to it, because that's that resistance that we often feel in the workplace, we're not going to see that change and that embracing and that things that can ultimately help a company rise even faster. Because if we are connected as a team, then we can move mountains as a company. But if that emotional divide exists interpersonally, then we're not able to move forward as strongly. So moving next to Susan, you mentioned you were in the investment game, or went into the investment banking side quite early in your career, and you've
right
been
after
in
my
the
temporary secretary
right
gig.
exactly, which gave you the intel I think you needed to know how to get that role eventually. How have you seen the industry change, and what barriers did you come up against early on that you're now being a part of changing for young women in the field?
Sure. So one thing I would say, I think finance is a great business for women. And the reason I say that is because finance entails obviously lending capital, investing capital, giving advice around capital. It typically all revolves around information. And in this day and age where information is really flattened out, the information that you can get that's what I would call proprietary, or from the person across the table, is extremely valuable. And I know there's some men in the room, so I don't want to be seen to be too, biased here, but I would say, and maybe you can experience this, but often when I go into a meeting and I'm with all my male colleagues, my male colleagues will be doing a lot of the talking, and I'll be like trying to listen to what the people across the table are trying to tell us. So I think on two fronts, women are actually particularly good at picking up information. And often people will tell you something as a woman that they might feel less comfortable telling a man, strangely. So that is a huge advantage. And it's particularly a big advantage in the finance world. So I think, and I have experienced that throughout my career, is just kind of the power of being an empathetic and active listener in meetings. So that's hugely powerful. I would say how have things changed over the years? Well, I started in investment banking in the 1980s. So I can tell you, fast forward to 2016, like the world has been sanitized a lot. Is there like some?
Is it a good sanitation? Sanitization?
Look, I would just say that it's become more normalized over time. And the investment banking business was notorious for having these crazy characters. I can remember being on road shows with, clients and literally being chased around the plane, and you're trying to say, look, I'm here to help you raise money, nothing else.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't think that exists still a little bit today, but I would say less so.
Yeah.
But it's it's an issue that women just have to deal with in business. Yeah. I'm not saying they should have to deal with it. Thankfully, it's changed. I would say significantly over the course of my 25-year career. But it was a factor, less so, but still in certain circumstances is a factor, particularly when you're in a male-dominated business.
Absolutely. I feel like part of the reason a lot of millennials are deferring to entrepreneurship, and sorry to put this out there for the young women in the room, but when I was on campus in university, it was like this bubble. Like you could
You
function.
are a young woman, sorry.
Yes. But like, you know. But one thing that I realized quickly when I left university is that that bubble is a place where I could be vocal about my feminism. It was a place where I could be vocal about what it meant for me to be a woman and where I could lead and in classes speak out and all these things. And very quickly when I went into the private sector, I realized that the rest of the world isn't really where we are at socially on university campuses, and that there's still so much work to do. And a gratitude point that I have is that I came into this feminist work so early in my career so that we could have open dialogues like this for young women who are about to emerge into very male-dominated, often sexist workplaces. So my co-founder, she quit her job and started our Kickstarter campaign to fund the film where we raised $100,000 because she was sexually harassed at work, and it really affected her spirit as a person. So I think the more we're able to collectively talk about this, so thank you for sharing that, the better off we are as a whole. So over to you, Megan. Waste management. I think you have been operating landfills for 6 years and now moving into the recycling side of things. What has that been like as a woman for you and your sisters, and now trailblazing within the industry?
Well, you just approach it like any project, right? Mm-hmm. It might be stinky and messy, but it's just garbage, right? So just break it down, right? Yeah. Just like you would at home with your children or any of that. You just break it down to what it is and how you're going to problem solve it and manage it. Mm-hmm. Like we said, we started in running landfills and now opening the transfer station as of June. We've found ways, and we're constantly thinking of ways we're going to, in the near future, to tackle anything that doesn't have to go into our landfills and find a resource of how we can reuse it and make it into something new.
Wonderful. And something I love about your story is the roles that both your mother and father played in the woman that you became today and the success that you've achieved today. So could you tell us a little bit about how they are your role models and what they kind of have given you on your path to success?
Well, to start with my mom, she's been pretty well on her own for the last 15 to 20 years, working on her own, supporting herself and us back when we lived with her. So that right there is a huge thing to admire and to really make you feel empowered being a woman. And my dad, well, he, it was tough when we were kids because he wasn't home all the time like you would want him to be, but growing up at this point, you realize what he was doing for you as much as he was for his business, right? It all came down to us, and he really did. He always said that he does it all for the girls. That's what he always told everybody. So that really made us feel good. And then when he approached us to get involved in the business, that just put it over the top, because then he really considered us and knew that it wouldn't scare us. We had been in the dirt and the garbage all our lives, so why not jump in and make something of it for ourselves? So they were both a huge, huge role in our lives.
That's so wonderful. So going from role models to mentorship, so we had discussed a little bit about the International Women's Forum, which is a collective of women and a network that you were a part of, that you so value being a part of. And mentorship is something that you're looking forward to figuring out a little bit more as you move forward. So tell us a little bit about that passion and what role mentorship has played in your life.
So first of all, the fellowship was an inordinate gift to me to be able to be a fellow with the International Women's Forum. I was one of 35 women from 14 countries. And what was amazing, so on one hand, all these very accomplished women who had very similar issues from a leadership role. So there is a common platform from which all of us, no matter what industry, what country, facing very similar issues. And each of us were matched with a mentor. And for me, it was a woman out in Denver, Colorado. And she was instrumental of, as she always says, lifting up my head and looking around, because we are going at a rate on a day-to-day basis. And she kept reminding me, and this is harsh reality, she says, Leslie, it's not a meritocracy. You work hard, people assume you work hard, you have to take it to the next level, and only you will do it because you are in charge of your career. And so over my career, the mentors that I've worked with, I've learned from them. but I've also tried to learn from them that's not them. So you take what you can to customize to your own situation, but it helps you lift your head up and think about yourself and what you're doing in this situation from a very different lens. And I think that's really, really important, that we have the ability to have this outer body experience, to stand over there and look back at yourself and say, how am I playing out in this situation? How am I going to deliberately think about that next meeting? How did I do last week? And that takes discipline. And so having different views, different mentors, and the ability to reflect has become very fundamental to my day-to-day existence, because just going is not enough. Just going is not enough.
A question that I think a lot of young people often play with is, how do I find a mentor? And, is it that you email someone and you're like, will you mentor me? Or is it just like finding someone you admire and adopting those things vicariously? What would you recommend has worked for you to find mentors in your life, or mentees who come to you? How do you?
All of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. So
Maybe this goes to the whole panel.
Yeah, I've had people email me. I have a hard time saying no, by the way. So it's hard. I have a hard. So there's formal mentorship programs, and sometimes with the Urban Land Institute or with Civic Action, I've been a mentor. I have people call me. I have people email me, and in our workplace we have a mentorship program. So I do that. I have to kind of pace myself. It's hard to say no, and then I refer people. I said, I'm really stretched. How about so and so and so and so? So the first step is to say, I want a mentor, and I think it's important. And then you have to take the initiative, though, the mentee. If you don't, it's your responsibility. It's your career. You have to take the responsibility. I have mentors, even still to this day, people that oh my God, what should I do? So it's important all through all stages of your career. But others may have some suggestions.
It was interesting because this question has come up before in other panels, and to be honest, I can't point to a mentor in my career. There have been people through my career that I have kind of reached out to for help, advice, what have you, but it hasn't been a particular thing. Now, from my point of view, in terms of people reaching out to you, I, like you, have a hard time saying no. And particularly for women, I definitely have a soft spot for women. So, if a woman is kind of either thinking about how do I get on a board, or I'm reflecting on my next kind of career move, or, I just received this offer from a pay perspective, what does that look like? Can you, so I'm very, in fact, I do a dinner usually once a year supporting a young female entrepreneur, and it's very organic. I just invite my friends, and typically they have lots to offer to the women who are around the table. So that's kind of fun. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of reach out and be helpful to people in the business. I think the perspective of having actually been through it and having been in business or working is extremely valuable, because sometimes when you're in the moment, it's hard to see kind of what the future and possibilities look like, and you can get a little bit bogged down. So I think the value of mentorship is being able to have a perspective of, oh yeah, I've been there, this is how it might play out for you, but believe me, there's light at the end of the tunnel, so you just got to get through it. So kind of to your point to your daughter.
What about for you, Megan? What role has mentorship played in your life? Do you have young women coming to you to chat, or who people you went to?
Well, I can honestly say so far I don't have too many people reaching out to me, but being newer in the business, I mean, my mentors would be, my sister Amber and my dad, because they're only a phone call away. So no matter what I entail in a day, I can always reach out to them, and I rely on that sometimes. Yeah. Because you need that. But yeah, and outside of that, I mean, we're close-knit, obviously, so I would have to say it's definitely those two.
Absolutely.
Can I raise a point? I think it's important to distinguish between mentorship and sponsorship, and you need both. So we talk about mentorship, but a sponsor is someone who's actually helping you in terms of your career and its progression, which is different than a mentor or coach that is making suggestions about different things. And I think I would say I've had both in my career, and for women, it's particularly important to have sponsors to enable you to have that hand up, because the system, and depending where you work, the systems don't necessarily enable that often.
I would just add one thing too. I mean, it's really important to have a very open and versatile mind as you're approaching work and problems. And you can learn from anyone you're encountering on any given day. And so I have found in my career, just by watching and thinking about what other people are doing in the room or how they've approached problems, has been particularly helpful to me.
And that's, I think, one of our biggest motivations with making Dream Girl, is to have access to those examples readily in a media form that's in the mainstream that you might not otherwise be able to see or hear from. So something that I am troubled with every single day is self-care and managing how I operate in the world alongside the massive expectations I have of myself and now that my business has on me. So what are some things that you guys put in practice every day, or life philosophies that you might have that help you through the really hard times, but also kind of get you up in the morning and to move through a day well?
I would say key for me is exercise. Like if you, and not for, you know, my body, although hopefully it helps. But it's really a mental thing. Like, you know, if I can get in a run, like a 30-minute run, you know, 4 times a week, and often it's at the end of the day where you're really tired and you, like I was just at a strategy meeting in Dublin and we had, you know, you're at a board, you've got dinners that you have to go to, you're jet lagged. So at the end of the meetings, I would just slap on my running shoes and go for a 30-minute run. And I can tell you, I was able to not only stay up for dinner, but enjoy it. So I would really, really encourage exercise. Seems simple, but.
Yeah. Any others?
So I was, it's funny that you said it, because I was, as you were saying that question, the body, mind, spirit. So I too, 3 mornings a week, if I don't work out in the morning, my week gets all askew. And I cycle, road cycle, and that's really important to me. The other thing that's important to me is when my kids finally moved out of the house. One is back, by the way. It's not a linear progression. They come back. I made a commitment to myself that I needed more art in my life. So I took out my AGO membership. I started going to concerts. It's to fill my soul. And because I found that it was just like to get it's energizing, and it's, you know, when you're in very difficult, stressful jobs, you need energy, and you've got to take it from wherever you can get it. So exercising, or going to look at a beautiful painting, or hear a crazy rock band. So I went to see Lady Gaga. I was so excited.
I feel like that would like fill any person's soul. She's so great.
That's right. So those are that's what I would say.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And for you, Megan?
I would say at this point in my life, just keeping things simple.
Yeah.
Don't overwhelm myself. When I get up in the morning, just have my regular routine, do as much as I can the night before, and just breathe through the day.
Yeah.
You know, getting my son packed in the morning, getting him fed, don't stress too much about it. So, just keeping things simple, try and have a bit of a routine through my week. And at the same time, you know, if I need to cry, just let it out, right? Close my door, let it out, and keep moving, because, you can't get overwhelmed with it.
No, and I think that's a really big piece. I mean, we have a lot of representation on stage here. We have an entrepreneur, investor, entrepreneurship with the organization. And I think across the board, that resilience is so important. Your ability to bounce back, to fall really hard, hit that rock bottom, but then to pull yourself back up, have that big cry, have those emotional releases and experiences, but still move forward the next day and not be deterred or discouraged. And if you are, to take a second, but then to move forward. So I'm going to head to audience questions. And if you do have more questions, please write them out. We've got wonderful folks on the side who will be grabbing them from your tables. Let's see. This one is kind of a broad one that Jarvis Collegiate has asked. What was your most memorable work experience? Or like a top 3, something that got you going or that you're really proud of, or that's one of the first things that comes to your mind right now?
So we are raising money for our fund. It's called the Green Soil Building Innovation Fund. And if anybody in the room has ever raised money, they know how hard it is. I have the body scars to prove it. So we've raised $55 million US, which is an amazing feat, I think, so far for us. And we just recently, at the beginning of October, announced that we closed a lead investor out of the UK, and this is a fantastic investor. They're called Grosvenor, and they committed $20 million to our fund. Yes. So that, honestly, when I walked into the meeting, you talk about like emotion. Okay, I didn't cry, but I was like, I was kind of overwhelmed because we'd been working on this. It's a team event. I've got a great team that I work with, and when I walked into the team meeting after getting off the call and knowing that we were going to sign the final documents, it was an incredible moment. So. But that took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and sometimes the success doesn't come from where you think it's going to come from. We had identified Grosvenor as an investor, but we weren't sure. We had a list of like 20 that were above them on the list of who we thought were going to come through for us, and in the end, these guys did. So you have to, iterate. Think about, keep moving through the list of people, but that was huge for us and our team. So
absolutely, that's so huge. Especially one investment stat that I know of is that it's like 3% of venture capital dollars go to women-led businesses, but women-led ventures actually bring in 12% more revenue than male-led ventures. So I think any move forward in the investment front for women and at such a large scale is like progress across the board. So. That's fantastic.
That was a big day.
Yeah.
So and that question, the first thing that came to mind for me was actually, it's going to sound odd, but was something that I was part of that failed. And why I say it's the most remarkable success in the end, I was part of Toronto's bid for the 2008 Summer Olympic Games. And it was a huge effort, 28 sporting communities, the whole region, elected representatives, federal government, provincial government. We worked for a year internationally to get the bid out. I worked with a team of crazy, amazing people from all walks of life in a pressure cooker to deliver with a deadline. And we all shipped ourselves off to Moscow for the IOC Congress, and we lost. And there were tears, but what was really interesting is what's the legacy of that effort. The people that I worked with went on to be, because of the effort of building community around the bid, some of the most significant city builders in this region. So Raoul Badjour, who was the head of Toronto Foundation, he was part of that. Mitzi Hunter, who's now a Minister of Education. Karen Petrie, she's the Premier's advisor on community hubs. I'm here doing transportation. There's all these, and we still stay in touch. And we created a network that will lay the platform for Vancouver's Winter Games. It laid the platform for all what's happening in the waterfront, because one of the conditions of the bid is that the 3 levels of government, the $21 billion, even if we lost, they were going to commit. So there you go. Thank you, waterfront. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. We have once a year a Bid Chick barbecue, and we get together and we support each other in all the ways that all of our families and careers have grown. So that's a work that seemingly was a failure, but was, from my mind, from my career, and from the rest of the people that participated, a huge success that is giving back in generations. So that's one of my examples.
Wonderful. Megan?
I would say right now it's seeing the progression in our business that we started in June, seeing the number of people visiting us every day go up, seeing the break-even line starting to clear, and having companies approach us that are big corporations or big companies out there that are somewhat competitors, but in the waste business you kind of all work together. But just seeing it get bigger and bigger every day. It's well worth the 5 months now, that we've been putting into getting going. And even our other company, Waste waste management of the landfills. Sometimes you lose a tender, but then you gain a tender, and then you're 5 years in that landfill and constantly looking for more. So, but yeah, right now the recycling plant is really picking up and finding more opportunity in all different ways.
Wonderful. And I am a bad timekeeper, so I believe that we have one more question. And so the question I'm going to ask is, our film is called Dream Girl. And naturally, I have to ask about your dreams. What is next for each of you? What do you hope, what is the greatest dream that you could accomplish? And if you're comfortable with sharing that with everyone today, we'd love to hear.
Well, I would say in our business is to to build a business that me, my sisters, my dad, my mom, my brother, everybody can rely on, and even our children. So something that one day, we don't have to be there as much, but we can still enjoy being a part of the business and being in the family. So I would say that is definitely my dream, is to just have a comfortable life going forward.
Wonderful.
So I would say kind of business-wise, getting to our goal of raising $100 million and then deploying the capital and making great investments so that we deliver great returns to our shareholders, for sure. That will not be a dream, it will be
a reality.
A reality. So
well, Gloria Steinem has a quote that says, "Dreaming is in fact a form of planning."
There you go. Yeah, so I would say that. And then I would say on the personal side, I have 2 boys. I'm involved in the community. I think just the ability to be involved, sharing, connected, and thinking about things beyond just your day-to-day work. I think that is an important attribute that we can have as business leaders, and there are many people in the room that do those types of things, and I think it's really very important for community and society to be engaged and to give back when you can.
Mm-hmm. So I think, in the most immediate, I think what's important for me, contribution is important for me, and everything I do is that I want to give back and leave a legacy. So in my work that I do today, Metrolinx is growing. We have a huge commitment to deliver, so that's very much at the front and center. But I know that for me, my dream is to be able to take what I'm learning here about what makes great cities and help others. So help other cities and other places, because we are forging new ground in this region that I think there are a lot of lessons learned for other places. And so my dream would be to be able to work with lots of other communities in the same way.
Thank you all, and we so appreciate everyone coming today. I do have a reminder of, there are those little pieces of paper on your table that you can fill out and actually tweet with from the Environment of Waterloo, or Faculty of Environment at Waterloo. And a big shout out again to Scotiabank and the BLG for sponsoring, and to RBC and Cortel Group for helping show up with the tables today as well. So thank you, everybody. And I think I'm handing off to Fred.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Mifflin, and I'm the president of the Canadian Club. Megan, Susan, Leslie, Komal, I want to thank you for an enlightening discussion and for sharing your inspirational stories with us this afternoon. As a father of 2 daughters, your message is very important to me. The facts don't lie. Women are natural leaders and entrepreneurs. Women drive economic growth and development, both as consumers, but more importantly, as producers of goods, services, and great ideas. All too often, women entrepreneurs don't get the support, financing, or acknowledgement that they deserve. That's why initiatives like Dream Girl are so important. They serve to raise awareness and to drive change. I want to offer special thanks to our moderator, Komal. You've tapped into the power of film and social media to have transformational impact. Thank you for captivating us on film and in person today. And to all of you, please accept our best wishes for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. I would just like to reinforce our appreciation of these incredible women for joining us today. It truly was an inspirational discussion, and I know everyone will take it back with them, and they'll always take a little piece with them. So thank you. And thanks also to Bordner, Ladner, Gervais, and Scotiabank, our event sponsors, for your support. This concludes our program for today. We would also like to thank our mediaevents.ca, Canada's online event space, and VVC for live streaming today's event. To learn more about the club, please visit us at canadianclub.org. Thank you for joining us. The meeting is now adjourned.